everything is already all right. It's just waiting on me to catch up. So I was very grateful. The first time I met Chris, I just kept looking at him and thinking like, man, I know this guy from somewhere. I know this guy. And I couldn't picture it. I couldn't figure it out. And then one day I was watching television and A Little Shop of Horrors came on. And I say, dang, he looks like Rick Moranis. I told him about it and we had an instant bond, and he's been my friend ever since. And I'm very grateful to be able to introduce him. Chris, please come on up.
I get a big bear hug from Bear himself. Has anyone ever heard this guy at the Prohibition Kitchen or anything? Incredible. I mean, can you imagine what he could do with a Barry White song? Incredible. And maybe he'll share something, because we're at a music festival here at St. Augustine Sing Out Loud Fest. And who ever heard of a poetry reading at a music festival? That's what some people are thinking, but I have to tell you, have you ever listened to the radio? Have you ever heard a song come on to the radio and fall in love with the lyrics? Well, those lyrics are poetry. And, John Lennon, he wrote some pretty good stuff, and Bob Dylan, and those two cats, they sang about change. And I have to be honest with you that right now, all over the world, is 100,000 Poets for Change. That's what's going on. And Michael Rothenberg lives in Tallahassee. Him and his wife created this idea of poets coming out of their caves, their writing chambers, their catacombs, one time a year at the same time, and sharing poems about change. And the idea was, first of all, are there 100,000 poets out there? And what would happen if we wrote about change? So around this time each year, St. Augustine and the Ancient City Poets, we've dedicated our last Sunday of the month poetry reading to 100,000 Poets for Change. We were at the Florida Heritage Book Festival. We got to do a symposium, like a panel discussion on a Saturday at the end of the month in September. And there's a lot of other opportunities. So we're not going to get together tomorrow on the last Sunday of the month. We're getting together tonight and it has something to do with is it the equinox that's going on now? That's why Michael chose this time for 100,000 Poets for Change. So there's like a cosmic thing going on here. It's the stars, and we are stars too. So I want to thank everyone for making the extra effort. Parking lot is really tough here, but you guys found parking spots and you came to gather here at the beach. It's got such a great vibe. So thank you everyone who came out of their way and dealt with that. Yeah, give yourselves a round of applause. And Paul is the mastermind behind this whole studio. Stand up, Paul. We want to give you... Paul, he's got a T-shirt on that says Poet Fest, and he designed that logo. So Paul's a brilliant graphic designer. He took the image and ran with it. I just gave him the idea, and he cranked it out, and we're very grateful for that. But Paul's art studio is in a historic building. And the reason why it's historic is there's some bad stuff going on, like wait-ins and protests and violence. And so that's how this building got recognized and put on the national record. And the Cultural Council is getting a whole initiative together. They want to put an awning, like to make this a bit more grand and sort of like give those columns their original reason back, to get a big awning there. But I have a little history. It's like originally constructed as the Works Progress Administration Project in 1939 to 40. This building now houses the dance studio and Paul's art studio and a gallery. And the building, as I mentioned, is listed on the National Register of Historic Places for its national significance as the location of beach wade-ins protesting segregated beaches in June of 1964. These wade-ins that happened right here and press coverage that these wade-ins received were widely credited with influencing the passage of the Civil Rights Act on July 2nd, 1964. And this was a hotel. There was a sister hotel across near the pier area, and that got destroyed in a hurricane, but the second sister remained, and this was known as the St. Augustine Beach Hotel. And, it's the site of important civil rights era demonstrations. Martin Luther King was involved, John Lewis, and very own St. Augustine residents such as Dr. Robert Haling. So can you feel the energy that we are tapping into on this equinox for 100,000 Poets for Change? I can. So wouldn't it be something if I didn't have any poems to share? What if I was just like a master of ceremonies? So I'm going to warm up the mic and get things going here. This is a poem called The Emperor of the Microphone. Black from your beret, deep down to your boots. Well, 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 you're very well read, very wise. You actually embody everything that I disguise and despise, everything that I despise. You have a microphone and a manuscript. It's a photo opportunity. Your black poet costume is carefully ironed, but the irony lies in the fact that your words are synthetic like polyester. I guess it was that beret that gave you away. You say you're a poet, so prove it. Your spoken words lie lifeless on the cafe floor. Buddy, how many more hours do I have to endure? They wanted heartache, but you gave us a headache. Emperor of the Microphone, please go back to the drawing board. Rewrite, revise, reveal. Invite the crowd to feel what you feel. Let the audience see your insides. Poet, focus on your feelings and forget about the falsehoods and the clothes upon your back. Welcome to the gathering place where odd fellows assemble and break bread. It's a chain letter that's going to continue until it combusts. Writers do not live on library shelves. They unwind in the barrooms. They convene in coffee shops on Main Street or at the beach. They hold court in cloisters of exposed brick. Evoke the therapeutic power of the pen. Speak and breathe and leave the gathering feeling better than the way that we felt when we first arrived. Lines on paper, they disappear into the vapor. Eliminate discrimination at the gathering, a place where we can be as one. I have something I gotta confess. I still miss David Bowie in this brand new year of a brave new world where leaders are elected with rock, paper, scissors, and sticks. Playground bullies stoke the fires of new politics. I still believe that peace can be the grease that can lubricate the wheel. Downsizing is my resolution, another discarded belonging. I keep longing to reclaim the magic, learning from lessons tragic. Revive the times when I felt most alive. Scary monsters of this new day, David did not pass away. The Starman just went home. But where am I, puzzle piece person? How do I fit in? Where is my place in this world without plans? This is not the Chris Bodor Show. This is an opportunity for some very gifted poets. You might like some, you might not. Please give them the respect that you've given me as I welcome my, I already have a right-hand man, so maybe he's my left-hand man. Robert Waldner is going to be coming up. I got to tell you a little bit about Robert in his professional bio. He's been a dedicated poet and writer since childhood. His life experiences have largely shaped his literary works. Robert has been an active member of the Ancient City Poets since 2013 and has led many of the monthly open mics when Chris Bodor was not available. For the past 7 months, he has been for the past 7 years. So 7 months and 6 years, 7 years. Yes. But in those 7 years, he's actively written articles for multiple Northeast Florida publications. You can also find his poetry and essays in various literary anthologies. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Robert Waldner. And when Robert's done, he's going to be signing copies of A.C. Papa issue 3, which he appears in. So you can run out and grab a copy or see him after the reading.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Chris. And also thanks, Chris, for all the hard work you do to put these readings together and to, make us a part of Sing Out Loud and 100,000 Poets for Change. So he puts a lot of work into it, so thank you, Chris. So I've got a series of 5 poems that I'm going to read. Most of my poetry that I'm reading tonight is about kind of my personal changes and the process of change personally to me. Refracting sunset. The sunset through my cracked windshield alludes that I have tomorrow to do what I did not today. Above the fissure running halfway along, splitting horizontally my field of view, the pink and orange brilliance of cirrus cloud kisses from a sad and fleeting celestial fireball are perceived to be within my grasp, a reminder of the finality of my misdeeds. But if I look below the clear surface fault line, there lies the illusion of an oasis of time, as nature's masterpiece is slightly further in the distance. I have more time to say, I love you, I'm sorry, and forgive me. And when tomorrow's sunset arrives, I can find comfort in looking below the translucent rift, once again to stave off the inevitable. Perhaps if I never replace my windshield, the ever-fleeting light, softened by the palette of the heavens, will continue to bend into the days upcoming, and I will never more have to distress over pleasantries unsaid and permanent maledictions. Maybe then my wishful refractions will negate the necessity for the personal reflections that infinitely haunt me. Thank you. This one, I think I wrote it about 10 years ago, and I put it away, and I just happened to stumble across it again. I don't know how good it is. I wrote it, and I never touched it again. It's called Humanity and Humility. Humanity and humility have turned to insanity and inability to empathize with those who are living without. I cannot sympathize with those who tout the rejection of service to the ones who need it most. Because our world says they are lazy, I cannot play host to thoughts so obtuse and motives so hazy that they go against all I'm about and all I've been taught. Many have been cast aside and left to fight a battle most have never fought. So I leave you with this one final thought. Judge not the whole of those on the street to be the kind who expect you to make their ends meet. It could always happen at any time that you could be left with barely a dime, only your tattered clothing and the shoes on your feet. Thank you. That's not me. Okay, good.
Missing elderly poet.
Okay. This one's called Aerial Roots. Among the aerial roots of the banyan tree, I sit and ponder a web of eloquent entanglement, not like that of society, not hateful, not suffocating, but nurturing, gently draping over limb and rambling down trunk to embrace the earth. For the aerial roots of the banyan tree infringe upon no one. They begin as seeds on branches, utilizing downward growth to meld with the soil, the creation of cohesive balance. I strive to exist like the aerial roots of the banyan tree. Thank you. This one, I don't know how many of you know about Stetson Kennedy, who he's a huge Northeast Florida activist. He has a house in Beluthahatchee, which is not too far from here. He's famous for actually infiltrating the Ku Klux Klan back in the 1940s, and he had a Superman show. And he actually gave away their secrets through that show, and I may be butchering the story a little bit, but he has numerous books. He has a book called, I don't remember the title, but it's about his infiltration of the Klan. Stellar human being. He passed away in 2011, but I wrote this poem back in 2016 for our very first Sing Out Loud festival, and it was actually at the Stetson Kennedy showcase at the gazebo downtown. It's called Stetson Kennedy, a Superman. In noble actions, an advocate relentless, rising against inaction for the defenseless. Eyes wide open while collecting from the poor, a compassionate soul born of empathetic youth walking door to door. Later, with his infiltration of the Klan, Stetson Kennedy, in his phone booth moment, became a Superman. Anonymously revealing criminal secrets over live radio broadcasts, he risked his life for the solace of others. Impassioned until the day he died, Stetson Kennedy's legacy lasts. He published his experiences to enlighten the world. While others watched, he valiantly took a stand against injustices no one should ever endure. Stetson Kennedy was and always will be America's real-life Superman. Thank you. Lastly, again, I don't know how good this one is. I actually wrote it yesterday, and I finished it up this morning for this event, so I don't know how good it is. It's called Embracing the Somber. Autumn seems to be the season of my annual awakening, but it comes from a dissonant melancholy, where for once in an entire year I am shattered by every pinprick, submerged by every raindrop, and chilled by every subtle breeze. A personal change conveys on the wings of my consciousness. Remembrances weigh heavy on my soul and regrets on my mind. There are an abundance of both. But I am present in a way that perhaps nobody can understand. Personal growth is born of my annual introspection, not in the form of mainstream success, but in a deeper love for humanity and a longing to be more the person my loved ones are in need of. I change by embracing the somber. I may breathe heavier, but I savor every breath. In my mourning, I also celebrate, not in the same way as a eulogy at a funeral, but in the way of a molting where I shed the outer skin of my soul so that it may continue to grow. My inner change comes from the rounding of sharp edges eroded away by the cooling of the earth. My contribution to world peace must begin with my interpersonal analyses. It is a process that cannot be hurried. So this season I will inhale the cool autumn air, exhale my personal transgressions, and embrace the somber times in my life so that I can better contribute to a world that needs all of my commitment and participation. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Again, Robert will be outside signing. And Ben Atkinson is going to be, wasn't that great, by the way? Yeah. So Ben Atkinson is our next featured poet, and Ben is an assistant professor of natural sciences at Flagler College. He's been a featured reader for Jack's by Jack's Literary Arts Festival, Sing Out Loud Festival, and the Southeast Sister City Reading Tour. Ben's debut poetry collection, Spider Lightning, was published by Hidden Owl in 2019. And I'm really grateful for Ben's contributions to the Ancient City Poets, but also his friendship. It's awesome to see him on the campus of Flagler College when I'm going about my work day, and to see just the intelligence flowing from his massive brain. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ben Atkinson.
Thank you, Chris. That was a very generous introduction. I'm going to read two poems, both from the book he mentioned, Spider Lightning. There's copies out on the table if you're interested. The first one's a short one. The second one's a little longer. The first poem I wrote at a time when I was in college, and I won't belabor it too much, but I will say that I hadn't written anything in about 6 months, and I was convinced that I would never write again or something. You know how it goes. Writer's block and that sort of, ever-present doubt. But I started with this phrase, time can change a man. And I thought since the theme was change, I'd dig this old fossil out of the ground. And then I turned the monitor off. So I had time can change a man. And I used to do that for a while in college, and then just write without looking, because I felt like it slowed me down. And this poem emerged, and I decided maybe I'll keep writing. So here we are, more than 20 years later. Metaphysical C. Time can change a man, evolve him, revolve him, until he becomes new. And the past becomes a rippled recollection, a reflection lost to the waves. Dark waters recede to reveal moonlight sands of new destiny. Siren songs have grown silent, and a new, subtle, soft, caressing murmur of things to come whispers to the wind-strewn shore. Each tiny grain may strain a billion drops of sea. Feel the salty tide run through your fingers as you fall to your knees shouting, "Why?" An answer may arrive in a glinting sparkle on the surface, or echo from a conch shell's confines, twisting and spiraling, never ceasing. A timeless primeval rhythm syncopated by waves, each crash a crescendo, reclaiming rocks to the sea. Thanks. And this is the second of two, I promise. I won't read more than two. I refer to a place called Hell's Hollow, which is a real place in western Pennsylvania that I used to hike a lot, and it's got kind of a piece of my heart there still. That's where I grew up. So you'll hear that and just know that it's also a real place, even though it sounds kind of scary as we approach Halloween. Portent. And then something changes. This thing that makes blood tingle, hairs raise, and mind run wild. Thoughts drift back to a time I lived like the rutting bucks of Hell's Hollow, reckless, breathing, eating, drinking life as if I may not see another day. In the haze, clouds, shining of the sun that once offered hope began to entomb, rob ambition. Everything was wasted until the emergence from old days into new, when my eyes flew open like black shutters in a dark room at 12 noon. Light flew in faster, brighter, and blinded. I could see, then darkness returned. I felt knowledge of fate, a notion of great days to come begin to crawl under the surface, like a burrowing mole, waiting for its moment in the sun, for his glory when it's done, for the day his time has come to make a stance and take me deep into a trance of things more real than here and now. Wishful diviner of snakes and zen, a farmhand with a knack for knowing how, endless dreams and sex under the moon fed my lust, made a primal vision come to pass. I heard voices in corn stalks and saw smiles in the eyes of crows. I swam to deathly sirens, was lured by nubile muses. When the winds would cry for sadness, the sun beat out my madness, and trees would hold my soul to the sky to show the maker its sun. I feel an age will come when a sage becomes the student. And I wonder where the truth is now and why the past is jaded, but still the future's faded by my never-ending doubt. An incessant search for faith, a quest for callings, and the rolling of the bones. Why do we seek out signs and believe in words? Like rings of a stump, a tree's ruins, a pyramid's perfection couldn't match such sweet serenity of intrinsic thoughts which lie within the mountains themselves. Rocks are the journal of the stars, and stars are just motion pictures of so many years ago. Triassic dinosaurs roared here, and I stand but a passing whisper. Primeval secrets may return when we learn to listen to the earth again. When our interference ends, a time will arrive for new ones to step forward, for earth keepers to protect what's left, to initiate this ancient's renaissance, rebirth of the druids. Warlocks open books of cosmic lines, incantations dance before their fire-glow eyes, seers, soothsayers saw the end and beginning, and all things that lie between the pages and the words. Spells were offered, broken and mended, reinvented to make the modern chants. Pagans tore off clothes and fears, danced around their fiery spires, hypnotized, convulsing, teasing naked flesh with flames of heat and passion. We paint ourselves and wear our leaves and dance about on starlit eves as the night grows darker with the rhythm of tides. Life cycles under an old, cold moon make months go by. Animals swim and fly, basking in primordial knowledge. Like monarchs meeting in Mexico, synchronous flight patterns of starlings, unison of fish schools, homing instincts of newts and bears, nesting sea turtles returning to their beaches of birth. Secret languages forgotten remain buried in our DNA. Awaken to a new day, eons passed in a flash, shaking off reverie's haze, lucid but confused. Moved to revisit sacred stomping grounds down in hell's hollow. Raise a massive antler to the blue. Watch the sunlight splinter through. Thanks.
Ben has copies outside if you want to grab them. He probably won't have any at the end because they sell so quickly, so grab him for a copy of his book. Ladies and gentlemen, again, Ben Atkinson. And Ben was the master of ceremonies for last year's Sing Out Loud. We actually held it on September 11, and there was talk about, spirit in the air and all that with the equinox and so forth. Man, you haven't lived until you've been to a poetry reading on September 11. It was pretty heavy, but it was our Sing Out Loud showcase for 2021. I'm going to be calling up Valerie Curry next. Valerie is an alumni of Flagler College, and she was on the bill for Poet Fest last year. We did a Underground Sounds showcase, and Richard Lepre put that together, and he brought Valerie on board, so she shared her poetry at Nobby's. It was incredible punk club there and indie music, and she was able to strut her stuff at the Underground Sounds showcase. The Victor Hugo quote which I'm going to share resonates with her. It is as follows: music expresses that which cannot be said and on which it is impossible to be silent. Her poetry collection, The Bottle, is a collection of over 100 poems that follows a loose coming-of-age story. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Valerie Curry to the open mic for the Ancient City Poets.
Hello, everyone. Can I adjust the mic just a bit? Sorry, I'm short. Okay. Thank you, Chris, for that introduction. I'm very excited to be here tonight because change is all I write about, all I write for. So today I'm going to be sharing with you 4 of my poems, 3 of which are going into my next book. 1 is from my old book. This one was inspired by quite literally a photo my friend sent me of 2 rats at PetSmart. Rats. Here's the story of Frick and Frack. They grew up together, back to back. When life got down, they wouldn't slack. They would get to work inside their shack. At work, Frick had quite the knack for working while Frack would snack. "Aren't you tired?" Frack would say. Frick shook his head and worked away. There was a promotion in the back. Frick had wanted to hijack. Frick was nervous to tell Frack when he got the job in the back. Frack was angry, so Frick yelled back, "Do you always want to be a sad sack?" Frick got the job and a hefty raise, but Frack can't make his rent today. Frick got new friends in the back and forgot about his life with Frack. Frack got lonely and was set back when he got something cardiac. Managers would start to give Frack flack when he'd call out, until his heart attack. Frick sobbed at the procession, regretting their last transgression, but Frick got caught in a greedy rage, forgetting they lived in the same cage. So this next one is it's about my relationship with my mother, which is kind of rough because I'm a queer person, so growing up in a very strict Catholic household, it was kind of rough. I also have a knack for gardening, so this kind of reflects that. This is one of my favorite plants as well. Bird of Paradise. When we moved into our house, there were these deep-rooted plants with long necks and multicolored flowers that spoke of tropical love. My mother spent so many seconds slaving away and whacking at them like there was some kind of weed that infested her own luxuriant life. They were an eyesore, according to her, and too much to care for any longer. She wanted them to be removed from our front lawn to never see their true colors again. Now, in my 20s, it's a strange feeling to watch my mother walk through my apartment and see the same species of flowers she despises so dearly. To her, the rainbow coloring is a mark of abhorrent, disreputable absurdity. But to me, it's just humanity. This next one is a Euphrasius poem after Banksy's One Nation under CCTV. It's the one with the kid climbing up the ladder painting while there's a policeman down on the ground taking a photo of him and like a camera right next to the mural. One Nation on camera. Everyone is created equal under the surveillance of the Everyone's created equal under the surveillance of the undercover agents watching me write this through my phone screen. We may paint our opinions outside the camera's lenses, but the uniforms will find us with their weaponized canines and mandated government lies. They cover their badges to ensure no accountability will be justifiably held against them as they throw us into unmarked black vans to lead us to a united end. They expect us to trust them. They expect us to conform. They capitalize on our demise, so they want us to stay the same. How are we supposed to trust a system not built for us? How are we supposed to reform a broken nation, united only under CCTV? The youth in red hoodies with secret paintbrushes and clear backpacks are our only hope, only shot at new freedom. They're our only ticket to the camera's end. Do I have any tea drinkers in the crowd? Who enjoys a good cup of tea? Okay. I wrote this one morning where I was really thinking about over time, like how my words will hold their weight and if they will be changed. Because I realize words can change over time. Tea time thoughts. As the sun rises in the east, I sit here, sipping on a hot cup of freshly brewed green lemony tea, and wonder who I will turn out to be. The greats, like Angelou, took their tactful time to brew. Their leaves were chopped, dried, stewed, and steeped to their maximum mastery. Like this tea, freshly brewed, will the first sip be forgotten on a wooden tea-stained desk, while other work is deemed more pertinent and important? Will my written words hold their steam within a frozen room, or will the ink collapse in vain down each delicate page and curse my favorite pen? Guthrie said my job is to comfort people in discomfort and cause discomfort to the comfortable. But I wonder if writing this will, alas, be another splash in the puddle. Thank you.
Look for Valerie in issue 4 of AC Papa. Now, what is AC Papa? That's ancient city poets, photographers, authors, and artists. That spells out AC Papa. And we're up to issue 3. We have copies of that. So many people who you've heard tonight are featured in that magazine. I'm the executive Grand Poobah type guy, the editor. I've put it together, and it's labor of love, and everyone should check it out. But I just can't wait to get some of Valerie's material and put it in issue 4. And everyone's welcome to submit. We have website information, and you just go to, you could web search AC Papa Literary Journal, and you'll find it on Facebook and Google and so forth. Or you could always talk to me. Is everyone having a good time? All right. I mean, you guys could be like in a packed little club or at the amphitheater rocking out to bands or a nice acoustic type thing, but instead you're here. Come on in. Yeah. Yeah. So, there's so many things going on for Sing Out Loud, and, we got a walking billboard right here, Sing Out Loud Festival herself. And I'm so grateful that you guys came to a poetry reading to see where it all comes from. Because as we had said, like John Lennon's a poet and Bob Dylan's a poet, and these words get written down, they get brought into the studio, and they get reworked, and that is the kernel, the beginning of these statements about change. And that's what we're addressing. 100,000 Poets for Change, one of 200 events. That's a good thing for you guys to web search, too. 100,000 Poets for Change. Find out all about what Michael Rothenberg has done with his wife as the co-founder. It's very impressive, and he's proven to be a great friend, and I feel his spirit with us right now, even though he's down in Tallahassee. So I have established the fact that you guys are having a good time. That's good. Okay. I've talked ad nauseum about my literary magazine, which is really your literary magazine because we're all in this together. And so the third thing I'd like to discuss is Cassandra DeGraff, who's going to be our next featured poet. She's been at every single Sing Out Loud. So the one that Robert was talking about that we did downtown in the gazebo, she was with us. When we were at the Limelight, those 2 years she was there. And last year we were outside on September 11. And once again, I'd like to remind you that Cassandra is from Key West, where she lived for 36 years. She has 4 beautiful children scattered around Georgia and Florida. She arrived in St. Augustine in August of 2014. She is an artist and a poet I believe her work is here on the wall. It was, but someone bought it, so it's not here. Yeah. We could say someone bought it. That's why it's not here. I mean, how can you have work at Paul's Gallery if it's been purchased? So that's a good thing. But she does show her work at the Coconut Barrel, and she's also a licensed cosmetologist. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Cassandra to the Ancient City Poet microphone.
Thank you. I'm Cassandra. I also go by Cassandra Baker, so sometimes I use that. So I just wanted to say that this year has been a lot of change for me. I've had 3 surgeries, carpal tunnel and my elbow. I went to cosmetology school last year, and I got licensed this year. So I got a job cutting hair. I did that for 2 months, and I had to have another surgery done, so I'm going back shortly. And the best part of all is I became a grandmother, and he's 2 months old, he's beautiful, and he's only an hour and a half away, so I can go see him frequently. So I have a few poems here. I did write one especially for this event, and it's called Hula Hoop. Okay. The truth I seek that can change me, I realize it's my own destiny. I am becoming new today and each day. The old casa begins to slip away. Holding on to the good, I strive to have a spiritual life. Practice, not perfection, as I trudge the happy road, letting go of the heavy load. Listening more, I learn more. Letting go and letting God, I sure do sometimes regress, become an emotional mess. Asking for divine help when I feel so powerless, change comes gradually, and then, like a freight train, I must stay in my lane, absorb the pain. The space in my hula hoop can only fit so much. Lord, keep me in the loop. Make sense of this alphabet soup. With my peeps and my troop, safety in numbers, serenity unencumbered. I just wrote that a few days ago. Okay, this one's called Sitting in the Dark. This is from January. Sitting in the dark before the day begins, my prayers are the same. I'm grateful for change. I cannot predict hope on the horizon. I can feel the protection, the surety that I will survive. For all that's gone by, there is promise of safe havens. I know I'm not alone. And that took a long time. So much work to be done. Cleaning house, trusting God, and helping others right where I'm supposed to be. A simple formula for a hard-headed woman like me. Okay, this one's a little dark. I wrote it in last month. It's called The Man Who Cried Wolf. Just once more, I tell you the lies you want to hear. Under the full moon, I howl in the dark, calling you back, making you my mark. Ever baring my teeth to repeat my sin in the lion's den. Little Riding Hood, with your basket of good, my chance to rip through an open wound. See your quivering lip. One last time, the man who cried wolf. Okay, I have a funny one and a one for my children. I'll read the children first. Okay, it's called A Mother's Prayer. If I could keep you from the pain, I would take it on myself. Experience has shown me, no matter what life throws my way, I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional. God gives me strength to sustain in the sunshine and the turbulent rain. For you, I want the moon and the stars. A partner to lean on through the wars, a hand and heart to hold, through the warmth and the cold, to realize every passionate dream, to stay on a powerful beam. This life is worth the living. Sorry. So grateful for all you've been given. In awe, I watched as you succeed, surpassing expectations indeed. I pray for your protection. I pray for your protection, God's favor and direction, and I tremble at his grace. His love, it shows on your face. Sorry, I'm really emotional right now. I had a difficult night. Never mind, I'm not going to tell you. But I have one last one, and it's a funny one. So this one I wrote a little while ago. Sorry, I can't see now. It's from February of 2018. There once was a man, he thought he was grand. With a simple wave of his hand, he smelled of wealth, dropped a name here and there, like a little man of Oz, a bit of mirror and smoke. Watch it, dear, don't want to choke on feigned interests, lackluster care, just enough savoir-faire. Kinda harsh, a little mean. I like it when it's work. Makes me start to go berserk. Spill my guts just for kicks. Words, just words, stones and sticks. Me, you don't need to fix. Silly rabbit, no more tricks. That's it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be calling up Pat Conauer, and she's been fantastic last couple of years, just burst onto the scene, and wherever Pat goes, her partner Per Hans is there, taking pictures and just documenting this chain letter that one day will combust. The Ancient City Poets open mic. We've been going on since it was August of 2009. That was our first open mic at like a coffee shop. They sold ice cream. We could only fit about 12 people in, but they came, and then 6 months later we were at a really big coffee shop, and then a gift shop, and then we went to the Gallery Cafe, and we started doing like these 2-year residencies. It wasn't planned, but the place would go out of business the 2 years that we had been in there. So it was like every 2 years, like Brigadoon, we had to just like go somewhere else. Yeah, it was probably us. Yeah. But there's always like 15 people on the sign-up sheet and like 15 people in the audience as well. So like 30, 40 people every month would show up to hear what the community had to share for their written words. And of course, we got snowbirds coming in, and there's such a thing as literary tourism. Like I do it. I look on the schedule. I'm going to New York City. Where's an open mic in New York City? Tuesday, boom. And you have to fight, though, to get on a sign-up sheet at in New York City. But here, you just got to go see Paul. I mean, he's a big guy, but don't let him intimidate you. He'll, give you the sign-up sheet. You write down your name, and you will be able to bring up your words at 8 o'clock. If you feel so inclined, go see Paul for the open mic portion. But let's get back to Pat. She's a writer and a visual artist. Retired from a career in education administration. She hails from a small island in southern New Jersey and moved to southwest Florida in 1973. And she's seeking new adventures in a cultural rich with history, art, and music. So she headed to St. Augustine in 2000. Ladies and gentlemen, Pat Conauer.
Jersey girl is right. But South Jersey, which is a totally different state from North Jersey, in case you didn't know that. Mistaken identities. Busy Saigon boulevards assaulted by the din. Bicycles everywhere, like Amsterdam or Copenhagen, dodging cars and scooters, with whole families astride, carrying baskets, pigs, and hope. Stars twinkle on the dining room ceiling, morning coffee on the veranda, all very civilized at Hotel Continental. "Are you from the embassy?" inquired the manager. Catch a ride in a copter heading down to Canto. Incredible waterfalls tumult and glisten in morning sun as they pour to the sea. Palm-lined beaches beckon for in-country R&R. Old French doctor's villa in downtown Delta Town. "War is not healthy for children and other living things," said the poster hanging in the bar, behind the massive speakers and booze-lined 3 rows deep. This was off-base housing for captains and above. Each had private quarters with maid and laundry mama-sans. They would not come to our room. The maids lacked a frame of reference and thought I was a French whore. "We eat melt-in-your-mouth crab fritters and piss-poor beer 33. Don't put your arm out the Jeep window. Slow down and your watch will disappear." Daily life seems untouched by distant sounds of war. Hopping on a scooter, I threw caution to the winds as we head to the marketplace for butter, marked U.S. not for resale, plundered and piled high. Mess was almost out, so we bought a full bag. Hand-embroidered baby dresses bargained down to pennies, huge, fat, angry blue crabs, tightly tied together with brown twine, claws cracking madly. With great indignity, no way to know their fate. Corn crab soup and salad, prawns as big as plates, dozen bakery baguettes, black market butter for all. Fed the nurses and doctors who came to dinner that night to celebrate a birthday. "Are you a donut dolly?" a deprecating term for Red Cross volunteers, heard from a condescending nurse. "No," I said with a smile, and left her wondering, was I as rude as she? One rainy afternoon, I sat reading in the house and watched the GI Guard walk out with the stereo speakers to trade for uncut heroin, then snort it to dream of being back in the world. At an RV colonel's house, all dressed up to party, there were other women there, mostly upper-class Vietnamese. I stood out as different, but discreet glances said nobody knew my role. What was my place in all this? A pilot's wife and teacher, extending an adventure past 2 weeks R&R in Hong Kong. I was just 24 and had not yet discovered my full identity. What manner of knowing was to come? Winds of change were brewing for the war, for me, and for all of us. And I was marching in the anti-war marches on my college campus while he was flying planes in Vietnam. And he agreed with me 100%. The earth still turns. The earth still turns in this dawn's early light, in the fade of moonlight, as it blindly surrenders to the sun, and the remaining stars are but pinpricks of light. A foreboding fills the air. Whiffs of change reveal in gentle breezes, carried into imagination as snippets of memory married with today's truth. Mist rises from the lake. The raven's call breaks stillness. A day like any other? But there is a newness separate from the new day, and we will be fearless. Resist encroaching fear, my heart implores. Resist hate and anger. After all, change begets change, and this too shall pass into a history lesson. A burst of sudden calm intrudes on the cacophony and beckons me to approach the edge of the precipice. Baby steps into the unknown with a cloak of invincibility. The earth still turns. and one more that's not too long called Requiem. The last time I saw Sheila, there was sunlight streaming through her fiery copper hair, soon to be falling out in handfuls. She hugged me goodbye on her way to Portland Airport. None knew then the transformation coming in our lives. I remember when 3 of us were braced in the wind and rain at Marshall Point Light. She in green, Susan in blue, me in red, rain jacket hoods plastered to our heads, laughing into the tumult of the day's deluge. What a perfect day that was. I never changed the navy paint in the first floor bath at my house in Maine, seeing her on the ladder every time I entered, so carefully cutting along the ceiling. This tiny firebrand, this she-devil, filled with energy and love, was among the best of us.
Thank you so much, Pat. Now, I was telling you guys about my left-hand man because I didn't want to give the other title of right-hand man to him because I already have a right-hand man. My right-hand man is Michael Henry Lee. He is a collage and digital photographic artist. His work is featured here, often on the wall. And in addition to that new foray into graphic arts, he's an internationally published Japanese poetry stylist. He's Mr. Haiku. His award-winning haikus and sinrus have consistently appeared in numerous online and print journals. Lee is one of the founding members of both the Ancient City Poets and the Kikino Haiku Circle. He also serves as the Southeast Region Coordinator for the Haiku Society of America. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Michael Henry Lee.
Well, we'll see if I can live up to that hype. Anyhow, I have to apologize. This is one of the only times that I took the prompt seriously, because I thought the 100,000 Poets for Change was a pretty serious endeavor. So I'll apologize for this introduction. Press for an answer to what one thing I would like to change. Undoubtedly, it would be attitudes. Mine first and foremost, because any significant change begins with you. A ripple that moves out to influence the pond that you inhabit. The primary attitude adjustments we all desperately need to consider is that my attitude is not the only attitude, and just because I have it doesn't necessarily make it right or any more viable than others. So a few attitudes to think about honestly evaluating are those concerning the environment, all sentient beings, all those are, let's see, I had to change this around today, I apologize. All sexual orientation, spiritual beliefs, norms, values, violence, aggression, and perhaps most important, war. So as a haiku and senryu poet, my craft is committed to showing and not telling. So keep that in mind when I read these few short poems. I'll read them all twice because that's really the culture of haiku poetry in Japan. It clarifies, and hopefully nobody will miss an important word, or that's what we hope. So here we go. Cicada shells. All this talk of a better place. Cicada shells. All this talk of a better place. The Sunshine State, seeing red every which way I turn. The Sunshine State, seeing red every which way I turn. invasive, a species not of their choosing. Invasive, a species not of their choosing. Whiteout, all that remains to be seen. Whiteout, all that remains to be seen. Show and tell, sharing the scars of domestic violence. Show and tell, sharing the scars of domestic violence. Forsythia, a number I recognize on the restroom wall. Forsythia, a number I recognize on the restroom wall. And lastly, I'll give you a little preface to this poem because some of them need it. In Japan, there's a belief that if you fold 1,000 paper cranes, your wish will come true. World peace, 1,000 paper cranes and counting. World peace, 1,000 paper cranes and counting. Blessings. Thank you very much. Namaste. Hey, peace and love, man.
Thank you, Michael. Awesome stuff. Oh, about the book signing? It wasn't really working out too well. So Mike had a great question. Earlier we were talking about signing copies of the literary magazine. We're going to do that. There's copies up available with Paul and on the table, and at the end of the reading you can grab us. But yeah, and also the restroom you can use at any time. If you ever need to stretch your legs, you could do that at any time, because we're going to keep on rocking and rolling. There's going to be no intermission. We're just going to go right into the open mic. So feel free to have your smoke break, a beautiful walk on the beach with your beloved, whatever you want to do while the event is going on. So hopefully that answered all questions, except for the meaning of life, because I don't have the answer for that. So, I'm really excited to hear Richard Lepre. He's the brains and muscle and soul behind Puddled Events, and he coordinated for me the Underground Sounds Poetry Showcase that was going on for last year's St. Augustine Poet Fest. And he also writes and performs his own poetry, and he plays in several bands. So he's really what we're talking about. He's the writer, does his poetry, and then turns it into music. He's a large part in coordinating music showcases here in town, and in October he's involved with the Ghosts of St. Augustine Pass Festival, so keep your ears open for the Puddled presentations that Richard is putting together. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Richard Lepre to the Ancient City Poets podium.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. First of all, I'd like to thank Chris for hosting this and hosting all the St. Augustine Poets Society events. I was telling Valerie, who read earlier, that me and a couple friends used to get together at a house and do a little rants and raves, something very similar to this. And it was crucial to be around everyone's words and to hear everyone. Because, we live in a small town. I say this all the time, but it's insane that we all don't know each other. And we don't know everyone's names. The least we can do is hear what everyone has to say. And Chris said, there's nothing like a poetry reading on 9/11. Well, I'll tell you, the day after Roe versus Wade was overturned was a particularly thoughtful poetry reading. So this first poem kind of touches on that a little bit. I write a lot about change and politics and things like that, but from the point about where society meets the individual. And where we can meet at these crossroads. Thank you. I don't want to use my words carefully. I want to stand on a ladder and pollock them at a canvas below. I want to shit where I eat. I want to sleep in. Choice is a luxury most aren't afforded. If I choose too long, I might never utter a single word. People with nothing left to say let out battle cries as they charged into battle and became statistics on the fields of Gettysburg and Shiloh. We can all hope for similar gust of agency. Life isn't lived in the lazy boy, from the confines of mind, sunken behind eyeballs and good intentions. But there is a breeze in the air, coming down the subway terminal, as life hugs the third rail, arms reaching out to lift you over the yellow line. Thank you. I book tours for a living. I book bands, these days mostly jazz artists, and a lot of that world is done years ahead of time, which is increasingly hard for me to wrap my head around because, you know, every time I interact with the words 2024 or 2025 as someone who reads science fiction, I feel like, you know, whoa, are we in those crazy times, you know, they write about? So this is, you know, a poem kind of musing on that. The Village Vanguard is booked until 2024. There's a lot of room for error between now and then. From beachfront to the sea, our landlords' houses will free themselves from their foundations back to the ocean. When does the plot happen? Hanging on to the denouement of a broken home movie on a reel-to-reel from the wood-paneled TV room of your favorite grandparents' house. When does the plot happen? When does it get good? I didn't realize this was a musical. Thank you. And I think I have a hard time always getting to, you know, as we say, political, because, you know, every time I get pointing fingers, I'm like, well, I'm kind of, to use we're Jersey folks here, some of us, you know, I'm kind of a schmuck too. So this is a poem, you know, talking about, you know, those crossroads of change. At the crossroads of Pedialyte and beer, at the intersection of a full meal and a bump, this full night's sleep could change my life. Cicadas under the stars are the new big city lights. Love will be soft and take all of my precious time. Change starts with a choice. Thank y'all. Appreciate you, Chris.
There's this whole talk about, you know, what happens when the poets are last. You know, does that mean they're not as good as the ones who went first? No way. You know, I like to save the best for last. So these two poets are top notch. And I want to share with you some information about Princess Simpson Rashid. She's an American visual artist, poet, and essayist. She was raised in New Jersey with roots in Georgia. Now a resident of Florida, Rashid is an active member of the Ancient City Poets and has been a featured reader for Jax by Jax Literary Arts Festival and the Sing Out Loud Festival. Both her art and her poetry have been published in a River Rising anthology of women's voices produced by women writing for a change. And we did a collaboration. We had our last Sunday in September reading at the Corazon in conjunction. So it was Ancient City Poets and Women Writing for a Change. That was a pretty powerful event. But without any further ado, Princess, take the mic.
Hi, guys. Thank you guys for all coming. Exciting night. All right. So my change topic is really about the change in me, and I think that's been a common thread. And My first poem, I'm going to read 4 poems, and my first poem is about the first big change I had in my life, other than my kids, having kids. This was, I got diagnosed with something, and it changed my whole perspective. So this is called By the Fire. It was nice. That time I sat with my artist friends in the back courtyard in Riverside, one Jacksonville night in October. Tossed dry wood scraps in a tall, rusted-out burn can. We sat in old lawn chairs, just chilling together. Overhead Christmas lights laced the trees. They made the courtyard seem a little magical, like fairies were possible. We sat around the campfire, took turns tending it, marveled at the sparks as they peppered the dark. We drank beers and talked about art and physics, paintings, dreams, and music. It was nice, except for the smoke. I coughed and was triggered, remembered I could be dying. One of my breasts was trying to kill me. I might need chemo. My hair was probably going to fall out. My friend Patrick gave me his chair, away from the smoke. I moved there and sat down, grateful. Thank you. Thank you. My next poem is called Abstraction is Black Joy. I'm a painter and I'm an abstract artist, and we're a special breed, and I think we're outnumbered, but I'm holding my own. So this poem is about me leaning into my chosen perspective of the importance of abstraction. So, abstraction is black joy. These days, what arises in me is work, unabashed. My expressions of black joy through abstraction, the kind of joy that turns into black magic, the kind that rides on the wings of shapes and lines that move, the kind that splashes about. Color all over the place, seas laid by Ebony, Jet, and Essence magazines that captured the black scene. Our history was planted in my cells. Now it flows, comes through my pen and my paintbrush. All that history, stained with blood and peppered with jubilee. Orange and yellows dancing with the blues. After they shot Armand, after Brianna, I became a believer in joy. What was left to believe in? When you can be killed jogging down the street, or sleeping in your own bed, or playing a video game, or playing in the park, or playing your music loud in a car. To choose to be joy-filled still in that kind of world is an act of rebellion, an act of resistance. I paint color fields. I abstract my mark. I jazz my paintings and stories because black abstraction is black joy. I choose joy. I choose this magic. It is my birthright. Thank you. This third poem is called Three Women Gather. And it was written during various stages of the COVID-19 pandemic, initially written before the Delta variant surge. So, Margit, Elena, and me met at the Bearded Pig on Kings Avenue in Jacksonville on a gray Sunday in July. We emerged from a lockdown, a lull period of the COVID-19. The pandemic made us hungry, so we ate brisket. There's something about meat at a gathering, the smell of smoke and fat drippings, brisket laid delicate on the plate like an offering to all women, saints, warriors, and mothers, to friendship. We three were in communion. We talked about everything, like how our children bloomed, how blackberries and tomatoes grow in our gardens, how cats like to hide in the moss trees of Florida, how to find your mojo once you've lost it, and how to move through grief, how to find yourself again. Outside the Bearded Pig, we hugged in a circle, just as it started to rain, like three witches who make art magic, like three sisters, outcast, the weird ones who collect moments. Us three, Margit, Elena, and me. Thank you. Thank you. And the last poem is also from the Blvd Pig. It was a very good dinner. So at the Blvd Pig, I had a side of collards smothered in memories of my grandmother's big blue speckled cooking pot. The one for greens, the one that sat on the brown stove in her Georgia kitchen, the one next to the long room in the back of the house, the one built by my grandfather in College Park. The pot liquor those bearded pig collards swam in was almost as good as hers. Almost. Their fries cooked just right with a dash of sriracha, I think. It tastes danced with the salt and pepper on my tongue, followed by the barbecue brisket and beer. I felt warm and full, like after a plate of my grandmother's fried chicken, black-eyed peas, and cornbread. I felt warm, full, and for the first time in a long while, I felt Southern, at least in my belly, if not in my heart. Thank you.
Let's hear it again for Princess. So, we're at our last featured poet. She's going to hit a home run, round the bases, bring us all home, and get ready for the open mic. We are going to do a 5-minute tech change so that we'll give everyone an opportunity to stretch their legs, network, get to know these amazing people, get business cards, QR codes, whatever you want to do to, or, swap tattoo artists' names and stuff like that. Everything you want to do to get to know these new friends of yours, these fellow artists, where you got to meet at this poetry gathering. Jamie Lynn Standish is a proud feminist human being who is never quite satisfied with being that part. Instead, chooses to spend her time doing lots of things, including reading and writing poetry and making art. And man, does she make art. Her first collection of poetry is called Night Blooming Flower. She has copies available and here tonight. And her mixed media artwork, No Longer Silent, was published in A River Rising, again, the anthology of women's voices produced by Women Writing for a Change out of Jacksonville, Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jamie Lynn.
Thanks, Chris, for the introduction, and thank you, Ancient City Poets. Sing Out Loud, thanks to Paul and the Art Studio for hosting us tonight. I'm going to read just a few poems, one from my book, Night Blooming Flower, and then a couple of new poems. So it'll be 3 or 4, depending on the time. This is called Notre Dame Erupted in Flames When We Decided to Separate. Part 1. Am I some kind of holy to you? A cathedral haunted by saints, the sacred space you need to pray, stained glass windows to see through, an empty confessional you release to? Part 2. Read me like scripture, like something you believe in, the way you worship seers. Put your own dollar in the past basket. I am not your offering. Thank you. This is called Siphoning Survival, Reaping Revival, and it's a more uplifting love poem, more recent. Come, lovely, and kiss the scar on my belly in brave, tender solace. My thoughts on you again. I led you down that trail, and the toe of your boot got wet with mud. We climbed a tree as the sun sank yesterday. I want to call you lover, like it's our first night together, or our last on earth. Maybe that's cliche. I know she told you to count the times you sang that word lover on your last album, edit some out, but I say, how could anything to do with love ever be too much? Let's play this song again and again while it's stuck in our heads. Pretend we don't know what happens when it ends. I'm not only a beautiful thing. I know you're not my answer, and I'm not yours. We're old enough not to look for answers in another anymore. What was the question anyway? A strange, dark transformation cries for abolition. What will we and the world be after that? I know I put my sunshine somewhere. Your breast cradled near my hip like the curve of your guitar, sweet intentions between sacred silence and siren's song. This is called Mother Tongue, Our Dreams. You want me to tie you up in bed, tease you, cut new teeth on your skin. I practice Boy Scout knots, wear amber. Rain soaks the front porch welcome mat. We track things in from outside. I long to live in a peaceful mind. You long to make your mother proud, to mother our son well. But now he lies incessantly, prods your wounds. Do you expect me to take sides? At night, I stand creekside. Watch a misnomer in the sky. Heat doesn't make lightning. Hostility doesn't make peace. Someone doesn't always have to pay. A family of something swims at my cold toes. Tiny tadpoles, maybe minnows, I can't tell. The dark moon hides their truth. I dreamt again about my teeth crumbling out. Sometimes you feel bound. Mock me, scream in your sleep. Thank you, and I have just one more, and it's called Love a Tidal Creek. I've never owned a heart-shaped locket that opens like a mollusk, which is to say I've never known love like ours, so whole, so open, worn close to my heart. Have you wondered why oysters spit? They filter 50 gallons of water a day. Low tide reveals everything in the creek, does the same for people. Everything is not meant to be exposed all the time, too raw. The sun would dry it out, burn it, and nothing could grow. But still, there's a time and a reason, a tide for it. I'm soft, but not fragile. Water oaks root even in sandy soil. They wear curtains of Spanish moss. Sometimes you can't see me through the curtain of shame from pain you still wear. Other times I can't see you through mine. The juniper grows so close to the water. You can apply the shrub's oil directly to skin to soothe wounds. Please never become less of yourself to try to protect me. We keep pocket knives in a bowl on the living room coffee table to shuck oysters, shave juniper bark, cut back moss, revealing soft bodies, harvesting healing ointment. Thank you so much. That's the last one, and I'm the last one, and it's time for the open mic. So, oh, and my books are here somewhere. If you want one.
Let's have a round of applause again for Jamie Lynn Sanish. We're going to land the plane just for 5 minutes to refuel, and please don't leave unless you have to. Get to know each other, and I just want to thank everyone. Maybe each time I say a name, you'll clap louder and louder and louder. Thank you, Bear, for the introduction. Thank you, Ben Atkinson, Robert Wallner, Valerie Curry, Cassandra DeGraff, Patricia Conauer, Michael Henry Lee, Richard Lepre, Princess Simpson Rashid, Jamie Lynn Sandish, and Pete the video guy. We'll be back in 5.